Okay, we're going to start out with some vocabulary. When we're talking multiplication, the factors are the numbers being multiplied together. That's a U. I know it's hard to see. Multiplied together. And the product is the answer. To a multiplication problem. Only multiplication. So when you get the problems that say, what is the product of? It's asking you to multiply. When we're dividing, the answer to a division problem is the quotient. So when it says, what is the quotient? You're supposed to divide. And the dividend is the number to be divided by the other. That's the inside number. When you were younger, you used to say the big number, but we know now that you can actually put the small number inside. And the divisor is the number you are dividing by. In multiplication, the order doesn't matter. In division, it does. The first number goes in the box all the time. Not the biggest, the first. All right, how to multiply decimals. Multiply like normal. You pretend that there is not a decimal. And then you count the numbers to the right, and it actually should be count the digits to the right of the decimal in the factors. Then starting at the right of your product, move the decimal point the same number of places to the left in your answer. Lining up the decimals is not necessary. If I went too fast, you need to hit pause. Fill in all these blanks. All right. We're going to do some examples. So, number 1, you have written sideways here, negative 12.02 times negative 3.4. Is our answer going to be positive or negative? Well, according to tic-tac-toe, which only works for multiplying and dividing, I have 2 negatives, so my answer will be positive. You don't have to write the plus sign, but you can, if that will help you remember. So we can't multiply sideways. It doesn't work. Let's go ahead and write it vertically. When you're writing this, you pretend like there's no decimal. Now you still have to include it, but you don't pay any attention to it. And in fact, I'm going to come where I have more room. You might need to do the same. And then you're going to multiply like normal. So hit pause and you multiply. And then when you're done, hit play and we'll compare answers. So I'm going to hit pause also. You multiply and I multiply, and then we'll compare. If you did not hit pause, you need to hit pause. If you're not multiplying because it is too hard for you, you don't like it, that means you need to practice, because this should not be hard for you. If it is, we got to get you to where it's easy for you. This should be an easy problem. All right, our last step says to count the number of decimal places in the problem. So you have to count both. 1, 2, 3. There's 3 in the problem, so there's going to be 3 in my answer. 1, 2, 3. 0.3. That means my decimal goes right here. Make sure that is a big fat decimal on your paper. I need to see it. If you have trouble multiplying, you need to get some help. It won't take long. We got to get you straightened out. That's important. If you're not sure how we did the decimal thing, we're going to do one more together and see how it goes. So number 2, is my answer going to be positive or negative? Look at your tic-tac-toe again. I have a positive and a negative. So my answer is negative. Put that negative sign before you forget. Now go ahead and do your multiplication. And I'm going to do mine off to the side. You might have to do yours on scratch paper also. It depends on how big you write. So for adding, my decimals line up. For for multiplying, they do not. Again, hit pause, do the multiplication, and then hit play. Okay, so if you did not hit pause to do that, you need to hit pause now. Push pause, do the multiplication. Your answer should look like mine when you're done. Now that you're finished, because you did it on your own, because if it's too hard for you, then you definitely need to be practicing on your own. We're going to put in our decimal. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Means our decimal goes right here, nice and big and fat. And we said our answer was negative because of our tic-tac-toe. Positive and negative gives us negative. Feeling okay? All right. A tank full of gas can fuel a car for 104.3 miles. How many miles can 15.2 tanks fuel? So this is a multiplication problem, right? We want to know how many miles if we had 15.2 tanks. So we're multiplying the number of miles times the number of tanks. It does not matter which number you put on top. I always put the number with the most digits on top. And this time it just happened, the decimals happen to line up. They don't always. Go ahead and do your multiplication. If I go too fast, you need to hit pause. Don't just copy down my answer. For one, I get it wrong a lot. A lot of times I check myself with a calculator. I get it wrong so much. If you're not done, push pause. Make sure you get the answer I get. This is where you test your ability to multiply. Okay. Assuming you got this number and assuming it's right, I might have made a mistake. 1, 2, 1, 2. Big fat decimal. So how many miles can 15.2 tanks fuel? 15.2 tanks can fuel 1,585.36 miles. All right, we're moving on to dividing. Multiplying is easy. It's just like the multiplying you've always done. The hard part is putting in the decimal, and that's just counting. You've been counting for a long time. The hard part is remembering when to do what rules, because it's different than adding and subtracting. That's the truth. Okay, dividing decimals. You're going to put your first number in. Always your first number, not always your big number. I'm going to have to do it off to the side because there's just not enough room. And your second number goes outside. Now the number outside, we don't want it to be a decimal. We're going to get rid of the decimal. So what we're really going to do is multiply by 100. But we're not even going to actually do that. We're just going to move the decimal point. So with your pencil, kind of like the bunny hops, we're going to go 1, 2, and rewrite it big and fat and ridiculous back here. The bunny hops are important because how many times did I move? 1, 2. If I move the outside 1, 2 times, I have to move the inside 1, 2 times. So let's do that. 1, 2. And then this decimal, before I forget where it goes, I'm going to put it big and fat right there. So what I really did was I multiplied both numbers by 100. So that keeps the problem the same. I'm now going to divide like this is 25. So how many times does 25 go into 5? 0, right? Each number inside gets a number on top. How many times does 25 go into 52? 2 times. And how many times does 25 go into 25? 1 time. Go ahead and finish that problem. Do not just copy me, do the problem. Now let's put out our answer. Is our answer positive or negative? Tic-tac-toe works for dividing just the way it works for multiplying. I have positive and positive. So my answer is positive. So I have a positive 21. Do I need the decimal? No, because it's at the end, like a period. Ready for the next one? If you are good and do not need my help, go ahead and do the next one without me. Otherwise, you can follow along with me. We're missing an equal sign there. All right, is my answer positive or negative? I have a negative and a negative. So, according to tic-tac-toe, negative and negative give me positive. So my answer is going to be positive. And I'm going to have to do the work somewhere else because I didn't give you enough room. The first number goes in the box. Now, don't worry about the positives and negatives because you've already decided what the answer is. So you don't have to write them or anything like that. And we're going to move the outside all the way to the end. How many times did I move it this time? 1. So that means I move this one 1 time. And take that decimal straight up. So in the box, I have 2 numbers before and 2 numbers after the decimal. On top, I need 2 numbers before and 2 numbers after. Now, so essentially this is 5, right? So how many times does 5 go into 0? How many times does 5 go into 1? 2 numbers before, 2 numbers before. How many times does 5 go into 12? Twice, because 2 times 5 is 10, so we can subtract 10 now and bring down that 5. Now how many times does 5 go into 25? 5 times. 5 times, oops, I don't know why I put a 5 times 5 is 25. So my answer is positive 0.25. All right, one more problem together and then you're on your own. The oil pan in your car has a small hole in it. You notice that it has drained a total of 3.5 liters. Total might be important. In 4 days. What is the average change in oil volume each day? So average tells me to divide. Total might tell me to add. Change might tell me to subtract. Average might tell me to divide. This is a division problem. I already know how much it changed. It changed 3.5 liters. And I already know the total. It says the total is 3.5 liters, so I don't need that. So it's average that I'm looking for. Average means divide. So we want how many liters per 1 day. So you have 3.5 liters in 4 days. Where's the decimal on the number 4? It's right here, right? If it's already at the end, do I need to move it, do you think? I don't think so either. I think it's good where it is. So if I'm not going to move this one, I'm not going to move this one. I'm just going to take it straight up. So that is 1 digit in front and 1 digit behind. How many times does 4 go into 3? 0. How many times does 4 go into 35? 'Gonna have to make my line longer. How many times does 4 go into 30? 7 times, because 4 times 7 is 28. And how many times does 4 go into 20? So what is the average change in oil volume each day? The average change in oil volume is 0.875 liters each day. And your sentence can look differently, that's fine.